Located off the coast of Massachusetts, the first Minot Sledge Lighthouse was built between 1847 and 1850. It was first lit on January 1st, 1850. About a year later, in April 1851, a huge storm hit the lighthouse, which caused major damage to Boston. The following morning, only a few pieces of the lighthouse could be found in the water. The two lighthouse keepers at the time died during the storm. Their bodies had washed up on the shore of an island 2 days later. In 1860, the current lighthouse was constructed in the exact same spot. It was first lit November 15th, 1860. Since then, fishermen report hearing cries from the tower, warning them to stay away. Shadowy figures from the lantern room, taps on the shoulders and cries at night have been heard and felt by visitors. A cat was once brought to the lighthouse for companionship, but went berserk. Some of the lighthouse keepers couldn't take staying in the haunted lighthouse. One worker even committed suicide after working in the lighthouse. The lighthouse still stands today. Yaquina Bay Lighthouse was built in the state of Oregon by a man named Ben Simpson. It was first lit on November 3rd, 1871. However, it was only active for 3 years due to the construction of another lighthouse, Yaquina Head Lighthouse. Yaquina Head Lighthouse was located 3 miles north of Yaquina Bay. On October 1st, 1874, the lighthouse was officially shut down because Yaquina Head Lighthouse made it obsolete. The lighthouse was later used for living quarters, as well as a watchtower, before being left empty for years. The lighthouse was then scheduled for demolition, but was later recognized to be a historical site. The old lighthouse contains many ghost stories and paranormal occurrences. The lighthouse is said to be haunted by a man named Evan McClure. Evan McClure was the captain of the ship Moncton. In 1874, a strong storm was reported to have swept the vessel into the rocky cliffs. The ship was wrecked. For over a century, visitors, workers, and locals have reported seeing an old man standing and looking up at the lighthouse, perhaps watching the light that would guide him to safety. Townsfolk also reported seeing the ghost of the captain, walking in and out of many buildings and houses located along the shore. Not too long afterwards, a teenage girl and her friends were on a picnic in Yaquina Bay when they decided to explore the abandoned lighthouse. The inside of the lighthouse was messy and dilapidated. Coming up onto the second floor, the group found an iron plate set onto the floor. The plate appeared to be covered in grease. However, they managed to get a grip on it using a handkerchief. They lifted the plate and discovered it was a door to a large murky hole cut into the floor that they could not see into. Leaving the door open, the girls left to explore some more. While preparing to leave, the girl realized she had left her handkerchief in the house. Her friends patiently waited for her while she went inside to grab it. Minutes later, a loud screaming could be heard from outside the lighthouse. The girl's friends hurried inside to see what made the noise. However, all they found was her bloodied handkerchief. The girl was never found. In the late 1500s, a Spanish watchtower stood on the grounds where the present St. Augustine Lighthouse stands today. A series of these wooden watchtowers are what evolved into Florida's first lighthouse. Indicated on several archival maps and documents, it is likely that some of these towers held a flame. However, by May of 1824, the first official lighthouse was lit in St. Augustine. Unfortunately, this old Spanish watchtower, as it was known, was threatened by shoreline erosion. Construction of a new tower was started in 1871, and by 1874, the new lighthouse was complete. The lighthouse was lit in October of 1874 by the headkeeper William Russell. The old lighthouse collapsed into the sea during a storm in 1880. St. Augustine Lighthouse attracts many tourists each year due to its rich history and paranormal occurrences. In the original lighthouse, from 1824, the lighthouse was owned by Dr. Allen Ballard. In the 1860s, Ballard was forced to sell the lighthouse to the government. Due to shoreline erosion, it was thought that the tower would get swallowed up by the ocean. However, Ballard refused to sell the tower, but the government threatened to take it via eminent domain and give him nothing. Ballard was outraged and vowed to never leave the lighthouse. Some say he can be spotted in and out of the property, even decades after his reported death. The most popular ghost story from the lighthouse is probably the one of the two girls who drowned in the bay. The two girls were daughters of Hezekiah Pitti, who was hired to do some renovations on the new lighthouse in the late 1800s. One day, in 1873, the daughters were playing around the grounds. They climbed into the cart used for carrying building materials from the bay to the lighthouse. The cart broke loose and slid down the hill into the bay, where both the girls drowned. To this day, the lighthouse workers can say they can often hear the giggling of the two girls. On rare occasions, some say the eldest girl can be spotted roaming the tower, in the same dress she drowned in.